Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're going to Masechtas Menachot daf Lamed Daled. We are going to begin on Lamed Daled Amud Aleph, the fourth line from the top. Itmar. Lul. Now lul usually is like a chicken coop, is how it's often translated in the Gemara. But over here we're talking about the dinim of a mezuzah. A lul patuach min habayis la'aliyah. So you have a staircase that leads from the first floor to the second floor. And the question is, which doors require a mezuzah? And Rashi says, Zehu darkan aruba be'emsa ha'aliyah. Literally, there's some type of like skylight or something in between. V'oylan lo min habayis b'malot. So you end up going up and down these stairs. D'oisen dal mechitzos saviv. There's four walls around it. Kadesh yorid adam min halil abayis ki'im bershus haliyah. That's why a person should only be able to go through that way. So that's why there's walls. Yosin pesach b'mechitzos v'chein yosin b'nei aliyah dalad mechitzos saviv harub l'mala uvehen pesach. So when it says and there's two doors, shnei psachim. So what is pesach when a bayis aliyah? So Rashi basically just pointed out that they also had a separate door to the outside, which occasionally was used to go from one place to the other. So Omer Rav Huna imish lo pesach echad. If there's one opening, then chaim mezuzachas. However, imish beis psachim. If there's two openings, it says Rashi echad bebayis and echad beliyah, one on the top floor, one on the bottom floor. Then chaim b'shtei mezuzah. They need to put a mezuzah on both places. So Omer Rav Papa. So Shema Mina Omer Rav Huna. We can derive from this statement. Hai in derona. When it comes to this large hall, this like ballroom, the Islay Arba Babi, and there's like four different directions of doors. So there's doors on each side, right? So in that situation, so let's say so what's the din? Chayim b'arba mezuzos. You have to put on each of the doors. So pshita, why wouldn't you, right? Of course, it seems to be straightforward that's what you should have to do, because there's four different openings. So tzricha avagam the rugel b'chad, even though you only really use only one door, right? Only one door is typically used, not the other ones. But the reality is you still need to put it over there as well. So even though it's true that some of the doors may not necessarily be used except for on occasional purposes, still mechayim mezuzah. Omer Meimar. Hai pischa di akrona. Akrona, Rashi says it's a keren zavius shalbayis, in like a corner or like a diagonal doorway. So chai b'mezuzah, that needs a mezuzah. So Omer Ravashi la meimer b'hol leis la psimen. Why would this be required? It needs to have posts, and that would not be something which was chai b'mezuzah without posts. Omer adi psimi, that the edge of the wall are considered to be the doorposts. Okay. Rashi says, Adi Hari Koimer Elu Rashi Haksolim Hein Psimen. As I said, the walls, they serve as the doorposts. Rav Papa Ikla Lebe Mar Shmuel. So he went to the house of Mar Shmuel. Chazahu Pischa, he saw a door. Right? It only had one doorpost, and it was on the left side. There was nothing on the right side. And he put a mezuzah on the left side. Armali Kaman, who's that like? Rameir, it must be like the sheet of Rameir. As Rashi says, Mefarish Kaman, we'll see later on, the Mechayim mezuzah bias shino ela pasim echad. Even if all you have is one doorpost, or you have two doorposts and a lintel, all you need is one doorpost, according to Rameir, to be mechayim and mezuzah. Certainly, come on, Rameir. Rav Meir. When does Rameir say this? That it's only miyamin. That's only if the one doorpost is on the right side. Mismo miyamar doesn't say it by the left. So maihi, what exactly is this? Machal the sanya. Beisecha, it says that it's supposed to be on your house, on your doorpost. So biyascham in the yamin. It's supposed to be on your right side. when you walk in. So how do you know it's the right? Maybe it's the left. So so my tumuda, what does that mean? What do we derive from that? So Amaraba derech biyascha min hayamin. The way that you enter is going in through you should put it on your right side. The akar inish kara diamina akar. When a person typically walks, if you're a righty, so you have your right side is dominant, so your right arm is dominant, and your right leg is dominant, so your right goes first. So basically, the first part that enters into a room, if you want to look at it that way, if let's say you're right outside and you're entering in, so then you would be entering with your right. Rav Shmuel bar Acha Kamida Rav Papa Mishmeda Rabba bar Ula Omer Mahacha. He derives it from a different pasuk. It says in Malachim Beis, V'yikach Yehoyada HaKayin Aron Echad, so that Yehoyada HaKayin took one Aron, V'yikav Chor B'dalato, and he made like this hole in the door, V'yitin Oiso Eitzel HaMizbeach, and he put it by the altar, Miyamin, from the right side, Bivoi Ish Beis Hashem, V'nosnu Shema HaKohanim Shemer Yatzaf. So that is where the Kohanim, who are the guardians, went, and they took es kol kesef, all the silver, hamuva beis Hashem. So so that's again another raya that it's totally on the right side, because that's what the pasuk says. It says Rashi, Kishaya Adam nichnas al Pesach Hazara, that when a person enters into the Hazara, Mizrachi v'hoylech l'marav. So again, the Kodesh HaKadoshim is in the west. So you're going from east to west. So Habi Oisu Aaron Miyamin. So the Aaron is on the right. Shahay Nasan Eitzel Kir Safaini is by the northern wall. Shawazbech Miyamin Bavoy Eitzel Hamizbech. Alma Derech Yamin Habi Bia. V'kol Davar Hanasan Derech Bia Tzarech Litnu Miyamin. Anytime we have an entrance, you always go to the right. And also the Mizbech itself, when the coin would go around, with rare exceptions, you would always go right, or in a counterclockwise manner. Okay, so anyway, that's another raya. That's where the mezuzah is supposed to be. So my ramer desanya bayishin lo el pasim echad. If you have a house which only has one doorpost, or mayor mechayim mezuzah chamin paitun, so you have a machlokas. So what's the basis of machlokas? My time to rabbanon, because mezuzah is ksiv. It's lashon rabim. You have to have two doorposts. So my time to mayor, you only need one. Desanya mezuzah shemani miut. Mezuzah shtayim. When it says the word mezuzos, that sounds like two, because shomer mezuzah is meparsha shnia. It does say it a second time, as we know it's mentioned once in the first paragraph of Shema, and one in the second paragraph of Shema, once in Veschana and one in Akev. So shein talmud leimer havi riboy acher riboy ve'ein riboy acher riboy elomiyat, like lamait. So ma'atu akasel mezuzah achas de Rabbi Shmuel. In other words, why does it have to have this notion of mentioning the mitzvah of mezuzah twice? One parsha after the other. They're both in Sefer Devarim. What is this necessity of saying it twice? So it's telling you that since it says it one time is two mezuzahs, the fact that it's repeated, one doorpost would be mechuyev. Okay. All right, so that's what it means. That's what words of Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Kimo Imrenu Sarach. You don't need to come on to that, because Shuaymer, the pasuk says al mashka v'al mezuzos, regarding having, this is in Parshas Bo, when it comes to placing the dam on the mezuzos, on the doorpost and the lintel by Makas B'charis. Shentam Shtei. Why does it say on the two doorposts? Matam Shtei. So Zeb bin Av Kol Makam Shneim mezuzos and Well Achas. Mezuzos just means one. Actually, until it actually says two. Okay. Similar drasha like that by Nevela. Okay. Let's look at question 9. Pesach she'en loy elo pasim echad im chay b'mezuzah. So, if it's on the right side, that's a machlokas Ramin Rabbanan. But if it's on the left, then with divrei hakoil, is going to be potter. That's question 9. So let's just mark that down. Okay. Good. Let's just take a peek at these other questions. Okay. So let's keep on moving. Tanu Rabbanan. Uksavtem, it says regarding the mezuzah, you're supposed to write it. Yochel yichtavena al havanim. Maybe it's supposed to be written on stone. Nemerkan ksiva v'nemer lahol ksiva. It says it here by mezuzah. It says the word ksiva, and it also says it elsewhere by Gitin. It also mentions that. So mal holwan al sefer. We know the get. The custom of a sefer krisos needs to be on paper or parchment. Afkan al ha-sefer. The mezuzah has to be in the sefer. Or klach derech zu. Maybe flip it around and say maybe not. Why? Because nemerkan ksiva v'nemer hol ksiva. Malhon avanim afkan avanim. Now it does say in Sefer Devarim. When it comes to writing the Sefer Torah, they actually wrote on stones themselves. So maybe actually what is supposed to be done here. Why would you compare it to a get? So maluhol and alavanim afkan alavanim. So nearly daima. Doning ksiva no nohegos adaris, miksiva no nohegos adaris. A mezuzah is a mitzvah which we can do right now, and a get, which is not the greatest mitzvah to do, but it does exist. This is something which was just done a one-time deal, it was a one-off. And I will write it on a sefer with diyai, with proper ink. Okay, Amrle Rav Achaber Reid Rav Ashi Rachmana Omer Al Mezuzos. It says on your doorpost. Yad Amr Nil Ksiva Ksiva Amr Krog Savtem Ksiva Tama. V'Hader Al Mezuzos Umiyachad Ksiva Ksavtem Hang Gzer Shava Lomli. Ilav Gzer Shava Habamina. If it wasn't for the Gzer Shava, you would think Lichtavia Av. No, write it on stone. V'Likva Sifa, and then you have to put it on the doorpost. Kamash Mulan. So again, the kash is like, what was the whole chiddush? It sounds like a davar pashut that you would, says Rashi, ksiva tama. Being ksiva tama al ha'etzim v'avanim al sefer. If you're going to have a complete proper writing, it's got to be on parchment. So he says, no, maybe you have to engrave it with an, says Rashi, yechakenu ba'asakin al havanim, to have ksiva tama. And then you could put it on the by the door, and maybe that's what the chiyuv is. That's what the mitzvah is. Okay. So arba parashah shebet tefillin ma'akva zu et zu. You have to have the 4 paragraphs all together. It's all or one deal. You have to have Shema V'Hoyim Shemo Kadosh Li V'Hoya from Parshas Bo. V'Yafil Ksav Echad Ma'akvan. Even if you're missing a letter, so pshita. The tefillin won't be kosher. So Rabbi Yehuda Maram, this is what we had before. L'nitzrucha el l'kaitza shel yud. So the Sefer Torah, if it's even missing like the little part of the yud on a yud, is also not good. V'hanami pshita. It's got to be a complete letter. L'nitzrucha el idach Rabbi Yehuda diyam Rabbi Yehuda Marav kol she'ein gevil mukaf lo mi arba ruchli sehab sula. It has to be that every letter has to be completely surrounded, even as we said, even if it's a chut hasayra, even if it's the smallest, tiniest little space, but there has to be, you can't have 2 letters that are connected on any direction, and that's what it's coming to tell us. That's the same thing when it comes to the tefillin. Okay, let's continue to Lam Dal Mabez. All right, Tanu Rabbanan. Now, why do you have to have 4? Where does that come from? And why is it that when it comes to the tefillin shel yad, they're all on one parchment, and yet for the tefillin shel rosh, there's 4 separate compartments? It's the same 4 paragraphs, but in the shel yad, they're all written on one cloth, and over here it's on 4. So here, this is what the Gemara says. Tarnabanan. So it says it in different places. Charharikan Dalad. It's actually 4 because one time it's written mole with a vav. So it's 1, 1, and 2. Charharikan Dalad. Divrei Bishmul. That teaches you that it has to be 4 parshas. So Rabbi Kiva Eimer Enu Sarach. You don't even need to come on to that because the word totafos in itself means four. Tot is bekasve shtayim, and pat, like totafos, is ba'afriki, in Africa it's shtayim. And 2 plus 2 is 4, last I checked. Tanoban. Yochel yichtav mal dalad oirois. You would think that the proper thing of doing is to write it on 4 separate parchments, and then put into the 4 separate compartments. You put on 4 different papers, and you put them all in bedalad oirois. Talmud Leimer was zikaroin beinenecha. So what is this talking about? Says Rashi, al dalad oirois, dalad chatichos klaf, yinichem bedalad batim, shel dalad chatichos klaf. It says zikaroin beinenecha. It should be remembrance between your eyes. Zikaron echad emarti lecha v'loy beis v'gimel zichroinais. So it all has to be all in the same one piece. So what does that mean? I thought there's supposed to be 4 separate compartments, right? Kaketzad. Kaisvin al dalad oirois. You're right. You put them, you write them on 4 different parchments, each paragraph. Umenichem bedalad batim, and you put it into each of the 4 compartments, or echad. But it needs to be or echad. It has to be the same leather that's connecting it all. So says Rashi, shemifshitan egel katan umenichem oiso betfus shish boy kamin etzbaois umenichem oiso yavesh. So basically, it has to be like one piece, right? The tefillin itself, which houses the tefillin, the 4 paragraphs, that needs to be one. That's lizikaroin, but everything inside has to be written separately. Now, v'im kosman b'or echad. Let's say for the tefillin shalosh, you wrote them all in one parchment, v'nichem b'dalad batim, but then you put them in 4 different compartments afterwards. Yotza. However, there has to be some space in between each parsha. Says Rashi, v'im kosvan b'or echad she'asa or echad. You took one parchment. V'kosvu boy dal parshes. You wrote all 4 on that one parchment. V'nichen b'dal batim, and then you put it in 4 separate compartments. She'or echad kamoshe pirashanu. So you. Basically, it's almost like weaving, but there's the Shema's here, but they're all connected, right? So it's okay, but there has to be a revach beinehem. You have to have some space in between. And Rashi goes into kamin dalad etzbaois, and it's really dalad parshios. Okay. Divri Rabbi. You don't actually have to have any space between. V'shavin, but they'll both agree, shenaisin chutu mashicha, Bein koil achas v'achas. You definitely have to have some type of a string or something in between each bias. V'im in charitzin nicker. If let's say the grooves on the tefillin shalosh, which you can see there's indentations or grooves, if you can't see that, psulos. Tonaban. Can't say kaisin tefillin shel yad. What's it? How about when it comes to that? So tefillin in yachid is tefillah. It's just interesting. Tefillin shel yad. So how do you make a tefillin shel yad? So kaisva. Al or echad, we write all 4 paragraphs on the same parchment. V'im kasva ba'arba oinos, if you wrote it on 4, then nicha b'bayisech, and you put them all in the same compartment, yatsa, or b'sech dabig. Here it's the opposite. You have to actually somehow attach them with glue or something like that, or sewing it up or something like that. Okay. Shenemar, the pasuk says, v'hayluchal ois al yadcha. It should be a sign on your hand. Right, kashem she'ois achas mibachutz, just like there's an ois, one ois outside, kach ois achas mibifnim. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. That's the drasha of why it has to be all connected. Rabbi Yosi Arenu Tzarich. He says you don't need actually to attach them. Right, just like we said before, like the Chum said Arenu Tzarich. To have a revach beinehem by the tefillin shel rosh. Here, you want them by tefillin shel yad. You don't want them all connected. He says it's not necessary. Rabbi Yosi Maidelo Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda will admit, Rabbi shim eino tefillin shel yad. Let's say, imagine you just don't have tefillin shel yad, right? So obviously you want to have a tefillin shel yad, tefillin shel rosh. Let's say you don't have one. V'yesh lo shtei tefillin shel rosh, and all you have are 2 tefillin shel rosh. Now that you want to be able to maybe take 1 tefillin shel rosh and make them the tefillin shel yad. So shetayil or al achas mehem. So you can take the leather on one of them, umenicha, and you can put it to make it the yad. So it's interesting. We actually find that this is acceptable. You can go from tefillin shel rosh, and it can become tefillin shel yad. So moide hanapug tayu. So what do you mean they admit? That's the argument. So Merava Midvarv Shel Rabbi Yosi Chazer Boy, Rabbi Huda. So he was Chazer, right? And in fact, everyone holds that Ein Tzarich Hadabek, you don't have to connect them. Eini b'hashalach Rabbi Chinam Mishmei Rabbi Yochanan Tefillin Shel Yad. When it comes to the Tefillin Shel Yad, Oisa Shel Rosh. If you want, you could convert it to a Tefillin Shel Rosh. However, the Shel Rosh Ein Oisa Shel Yad. Why not? They're Tefillin to Tefillin. She'ein Maridin Mikadusha Chamur Kadusha Kala. You can't go down. The Tefillin Shel Rosh are halakhically considered to have a higher level of sanctity. What do you mean? They both have the same parshas in it. So it says Rashi, Sheruba Shel Shin Daled Yud Nasa, that the Hashem's name is on the Tefillin Shel Rosh. Why? Because we find the shin. There's a shin and a daled. The shin is either on the tefillin themselves on both sides, a 3-branch shin and a 4-branch shin, and the daled is on the back of your head. Avol b'shel zoroya. When it comes to interesting shel zoroya of the yad, eno el yud. There's a yud. So obviously that you connect the shin, daled, and the yud together with both of them, right? Sheshem Ritzua Katana Kashir Rachav Etzba, right? And that looks like a yud. So anyway, so interesting, why is it that the tefillin have a higher level of Kedusha, tefillin Shel Rosh? Because you have 2 names of Hashem, this one has 1 letter of Hashem. 2 letters of Hashem. So anyway, it's a kasha. We see that you're not supposed to make tefillin Shel Rosh into Shel Yad. So kasha. Ha diatikta ha bechadata. One is if it's old, and one is if it's new. What does that mean? So says Rashi, if they're older tefillin, shikvar niksharu b'roish, that you already tied them up, you made the ritzuos, which has a dalad there, asur. Then it's asur l'haridin v'laso shel yad, because in that situation, okay, then you already have a shin and a dalad. So therefore you can't do it. But if it's new, and therefore all you have is you don't connect it to the ritzuos or anything like that, so you don't have the majority letters. Now there is a shita that says hasmana, that even if you didn't actually do anything, but once you've even dedicated it, that this will be a shel rosh, that it should be enough that you can't make it shel yad. It just means, let's say you made a condition initially that even though normally hasmana milsa, but until these tefillin are used, they're not going to consider to have that level, and then that would be okay. Okay, question 10. Tefillin shel rosh im oisen oisa shel yad im oisen oisa shel rosh. So, im nishtamish b'shel rosh, if you've used them before, or you had hasmana, according to one who says hasmana milsa, then you can't make it into a yad. But if it's new, then it's okay. The yad can be made into a rosh. That's question 10. Okay, pretty straightforward question. Let's get to the 2 dots and let's see the other questions afterwards. Fine. Tanurabanan. Ketzad Sidron. So what is the order of the tefillin? So you have Kaddish li v'hay kiviyacha miyamin. On the right side, it says you have these 2 paragraphs. Shema v'hayim shemoa mismoil. And they're on the left side. The question is, what does it mean? Is it that order? Which 2, right? So v'sani ivcha. I thought it was the other way around. Right? Depends on which direction you're looking. But kaira kasidron. Okay. And what is reading reads it kaseder. So let's look at Rashi. Kaseder shehin ksuvim b'tayra. That it should be placed as according to the opinion of Rashi, the way that it's actually written in the Torah. Mukdam mukdam, u'mu'uchar mu'uchar, hilkach. Therefore, hadid tani el kadesh v'haya kiviyachas. So those are the first ones, because those are both in Parshas Bo. Miyamin shakaira kaimer the hashta kashu kaira kedarko miyamin usmoiloi v'nimsa kairin kasidran v'hada tani ibcha the mashma kadesh v'haya kiviyacham ismoil amaniach kaimer the one who places it in do yamin shel kaira. Okay, and of course this is the famous machlokus, another famous machlokus over here between Rashi and Tosfos, or more specifically, Rabbeinu Tam, right? Which you can see this very lengthy Tosfos over here. Perisha kunshin kaseder shein ksuvim b'Torah, etc. And therefore he gets into it, and then you can see v'kashel Rabbeinu Tam. So yes, Rabbeinu Tam has a kasha. And therefore, Rabbeinu Tam ends up having a different opinion as to the order of the tefillin. So, of course, we have the minhag to use only Ashkenaz tefillin, except for Hasidim, they will also put on Rabbeinu Tam. So the difference is just the order of where those four paragraphs are based on the understanding of this Gemara. Okay, we're going to stop there. Let's look at question TA13. Be'eza mikra mutter lasas tefillin shel reish tefillin shel yad bein lochosh. So when is it allowed? So this is a little bit difficult. It actually gives you two answers. So one answer would be, of course, if they were brand new. And the other one will probably if you hold Hazman Alav Milsa, right? So Zilmandiam Hazman Alav Milsa, or Hazman, even if Hazman Milsa is Obishahisna. So let's read the question. Be'ezim mikra mutulasas mitfil and shorosh ve'en lochosh demaridin mekadusha. Okay, I don't know why those are the two answers, because you could certainly also say it's totally if it's new or old. Okay, fine. But again, according to one who says Hazman Milsahi, so you made a condition, right? You made a Tanai. So therefore, because of that, then it's not gonna. Then it'll be okay. All right. TB 16. Matai motor lasos mitfilin shorosh. Sounds like the same question. So what I wrote. Chadati l'mandim hazmana la milsa. If you hold it's not a problem, it's okay. L'mandim hazmana milsa. This is a great answer. If you hold it is, then im masnav. You made a condition al zem yikar sheyachal lasos. Then it's allowed. Adkan.